welcome Helen Foster, Director of Teaching and Learning at the National Centre for Learning Welsh. And in her role, she has co-authored and edited a series of course books on levels A1 to B2, which are being used all over Wales, and she's continuing to teach and to train new Learn Welsh tutors as well. She's also a member of the consultative group, which develops the code for the Welsh language based on CEFR. Emyr Davies. You can see that I know Emyr, can't you? We were singing in the same choir for many years. We were students at the same time in Aberystwyth, so forgive me, Emyr, for bringing up those exams, but Emyr is responsible for the series of exams for Welsh adults in WJC, and he represents the Welsh language, which is the Association for Language Testers in Europe. He's got a broad academic background in this field, and he's led projects to unite the qualifications of this with the CEFR, and also a very warm welcome to Steve Morris, Honorary Associate Professor in Swansea University, who is a specialist in applied linguistics. He's got over 35 years of experience of teaching and research in the Welsh language, and he's been central to national projects like Cor Pen. There you go, I've learned how to say that today, and work on creating a core vocabulary for learners. There's quite an introduction for quite a panel. Please give the three of them a very warm welcome, Helen, Emyr and Steve. Good afternoon to all of you. It's good to see so many of you who've stayed till the very end of the day. I thought there would be about 5 of us left, including me, Helen and Steve, so this is quite the turnout. Well done to all of you. If we were holding this conference 20 years ago, it would be only me, Helen and Steve here at all, so clearly interest in the CEFR has grown. So we have heard much presentations today which have been very useful and interesting. We've heard about the history of developing the framework. We've heard about what happens in other countries. I just want to say a few words about how the framework could be used in our context. The framework itself doesn't say that we have to use it in a specific way. It invites users to consider. That's what it says. It's very, very courteous in the way it reads things. It's a call to help developers in different fields. But I would also note that the ideas and the things that are happening in other countries necessarily are useful to us in Wales. Even though it's good to learn what's happening in other countries and to almost steal ideas that do work, but like the framework itself, we do need to apply meaningfully and not to reflect. So who might benefit from using the framework? Well, we've already heard about employers and having a clear guidance for employers to describe the linguistic skills and the skills needed in the workforce would be useful based on the code or the framework. It can be helpful in defining a role, in creating job descriptions, in creating advertisements and identifying training needs as well. There are plenty of examples of this happening in other places, and all of it is based on the code. But to get all of this to happen, we need some understanding of what the framework means and how it works. So we need clear guidance for employers. As Professor Carlson said at the end of her presentation, there's not much point saying you need B1 for a job if people don't know what B1 means. But at least it is more helpful for employers and other users than just saying desirable or essential, which doesn't always help. And what's appealing about the framework is that the emphasis is on what you can do in the language, not how well you can do it. And we've learned not to worry too much anyway about quality and linguistic accuracy, but rather to worry about what the user can do in Welsh. Something else that's appealing, as we've already heard earlier, is that you can have a varied profile. And what I mean by that is that the speaking level could possibly be different to the skills on the writing level. The idea that one level and one label kind of is one size fits all is, of course, too simplistic. That label is only shorthand, if you like, to describe more useful definitions. These labels and the levels talk about grading language in a way, and we're quite familiar with this in the field, aren't we, and also in the education field. When people consider the framework, it's the levels that's going to mind. As Professor Martin said, that's the aspect of the framework which has kind of grabbed people's attention. We might not yet have gotten to the place where people in general have heard about it. We heard about the situation in Norway, where most employees there haven't quite understood the meaning of the levels, but things are improving. Things are very different in different countries in Europe, and people will refer to themselves as A2 or B1 with some understanding of what that means. So this grading is useful. It helps resource developments. It helps authors to form resources which are appropriate to learners. It's also possible to grade according to what learners are likely to be able to do, as well as grade from a more detailed standpoint, from a more linguistic standpoint, like vocabulary and patterns and things like that. But what about assessment? Well, the framework can help developers of language assessments like myself, whether that's standardised exams or more informal assessments. And it's one of the requirements of ALTA, which is the association mentioned earlier. The framework was very useful as we developed this series of exams for adults who are learning Welsh. This process was commenced over 20 years ago. It was helpful to identify the needs of the learners. What I mean by that is what type of qualification could we consider, and also where the gaps were. That didn't mean that every table and every descriptor was relevant or was relevant to the individual needs of the learner in question. The framework calls upon the need to identify those needs or those gaps, but the needs come first. The process of linking the exams is described in detail in this document that Professor Martinique mentioned. We went through this process mostly in 2024, and it's quite a good sign for us that our qualifications are on the appropriate levels. And when we're saying what they are, so the B1 exam in Welsh equates to the B1 exam in French, Irish, English even. To conclude then, very briefly, the framework can help people like us who are developing assessments and resources and research. It doesn't say that you have to do things in a specific way, and we shouldn't consider the framework a threat. It can offer consistency from the perspective of our sector. We obviously work very carefully to ensure that the resources and what's happening in class, the resources and the exams all intertwine and correspond with each other. Working with the framework is a sign of quality, but it's also kind of an external measure of achievements for learners, tutors, employers, policymakers, everybody. Furthermore, I think it shows that we are serious about it in this field. We're serious about getting people to learn Welsh and to speak Welsh. On that, I'm going to hand over to Helen. Good afternoon.
Well, Helen ydw i.
There we go. I'm Helen and I work in the National Centre for Learning Welsh. As we've heard today, this is a framework. CEFR is a framework, and for anybody who's interested in teaching and learning, it's not a curriculum, and it certainly is not a resource. And that's the challenge. And what I want to share with you in these few minutes now is how we've gone about it with adults to ensure that we go on a journey together. So these are the covers of our course books. Thank you to Emma's innovation, actually developing the exams to coincide with the CEFR. When the centre was established, the very first job was to create a curriculum. It made full sense that we also mapped out against the CEFR and that we incorporated the exams. So here you can see from the very beginning, we've labelled our courses Entry A1, Foundation A2, Canolradd Intermediate B1, and then Higher 1 B2. We might have almost hidden the letters there in brackets, aren't they? So every year we rewrite a level, and it's now come out of the brackets now that we're incorporating the CEFR, and we're bravely shouting from the rooftops, here we are now coinciding with the CEFR. And I'm not going to test this afternoon, but just for example, I've got one example for you. B1 intermediate can join or can enter unprepared into conversation on familiar topics. So as you've seen, I could have started or chosen 1,000 statements, but that is so important to us, being able to converse unprepared. That is our aim. So within the intermediate course, we've got activity after activity, and it takes a bit of thinking, to do the same thing in different ways. But I'm not going to talk about the CEFR. I want to bring you on the journey that we were on as a challenge maybe for the other sectors in terms of what's in front of you. We've got national courses. And I'm the first to admit that they're no better than anything that was before us. I wouldn't dare say that, because I don't think that. But we have worked completely strategically. We've worked as one national team. So what are the advantages of that? Well, first of all the supplementary resources. I think if I'm thinking about how many entry courses there were in Wales when I started, I think there was 18, including North, South, South East, South West, and so forth. But it was impossible to create supplementary resources of a high professional standard 18 times. So you've got audio resources, video resources. I also have to thank SLC so much as well. They provide so many resources for us. If every Learn Welsh tutor met them, it would be impossible. Never mind every teacher, but because there's a central point asking for it, we have every support for that. We've then got a series of graded readers. It's a very familiar term if you are teaching other languages. People have been writing books for learners for donkey's years, but this has been completely strategically again. We put the covers in our course books, and that's something that I'm really, really proud of with this project. The aim of the target of book sales in Welsh is about 60%, and all of them might not be book targets. We've got 50 titles in this series, and our latest sales are 77,000 copies. Win-win. That's a win-win. There you go, you're clapping English there. Win's a win. But obviously, it's been really important resources for people who are learning Welsh, but it's also supported our publishing industry here in Wales. We can have this vision for our entire sector, it's not just for the adults. There are many bookshops saying that the learning Welsh market is one of the most important cornerstones of their market. We are here to sustain the infrastructure of Welsh together. We are learner orientated. We heard about that this morning, didn't we? When the CEFR was set up, someone could kind of take that level and go on to another organisation, and that is so true since COVID. Since we've now been learning virtually and face-to-face, I'm a fan of face-to-face learning, as everybody knows, but there's a lot of virtual learning happening as well. And the learner now, if you live in South Wales, you can go to any provider across South Wales at any time which suits you. I also hope that it's transformed the way that we can train our tutors. We've got a course called Start Teaching, which prepares people to present the entry course. We know that people will do the same thing in their classes, so we've been able to raise standards there. And as I've already said, it's helped us so much with working with partners and working strategically. People want to learn with us because they know that we can be an important market for them as well. That's our aim at the centre, is consistent improvement. Publishing a resource, not just sitting back. Every year, as I said, we rewrite one volume, and this year I've been banging my head against the wall, working on level B1 intermediate. I feel that this level is really important. I really feel that we need to be psychologists as well as tutors, and that we need to show people that they're not native speakers, but users of the Welsh language. And I now use the CEFR more than I ever have before, just to get, as our speaker said this morning, to get that real-life tasks, to get them incorporated in the course book, to prove to people that they can speak Welsh. I'm going to hand over to Steve in a moment to talk about research, but I have got one other slide sitting in front of me. I've got two of our amazing researchers, Fernando and Dawn, in Cardiff University. In working strategically, in working nationally, in following an acknowledged framework, we attract researchers of the highest quality who are truly excited by the CEFR and the possibilities that it brings. And this is the latest tool in a series of tools that Fernando and Dawn have been working on creating a resource. That's hard to say in Welsh, in English, readability analysis. But now we can have a careful reading. We can see what is simple in a piece of work and what's difficult in a piece of work. So I hope that you've enjoyed listening to our journey. This is the journey that all of us in this room are going to go on together over the next couple of years. Thank you. Thank you very much, Helen. I've got -3 minutes now for my part. So, for those of you who know how I present, Dawn and Fernando definitely know that I very often run over time. But anyway, I'm just going to speak a little bit. Matthew said during the panel how important it is to ensure that research is backing up our decisions and what we do in the field. And I want to talk very briefly about one element of that research that I've been a part of for some years now. And the research, some have already mentioned a core vocabulary, but this really goes back to about 15 years ago now, where the other research, the other report, the National Federation for Education Research reports, which happened to be in Swansea at the time. They wrote a report on the welfare of adults field, and one of the comments in that report was, we have no evidence that we are teaching the constructions and the words which are necessary. And I really thought about that quotation, and I felt, well, it's true, isn't it? How do we know that we are teaching the vocabulary in these courses which are truly needed for learners? And for people who work in English or other foreign languages, it's quite easy. They've got what they call the corpus, huge collections of language. In English, I think there's 1 billion, is it, Dawn? Yeah, in the British National Corpus. So you can really look at a resource like that. You can see what the most often used words are, and they're obviously the words then that you need to teach. So at the time, we didn't have a corpus in Welsh at the time. So I was lucky enough in Swansea. We had staff like Paul, Mira and Tess Fitzpatrick, who are global experts in vocabulary. And we decided to use a method which had been used for French, the Français fondamental. Has anybody heard of that? No? Well, I didn't at the time either. And in essence, the Français fondamental was a method in the 50s and the 60s which was used in French to create a core French vocabulary. And what it included was 25 categories, the very, very important categories for the adults who were learning. It included 16 experienced tutors, and we asked those tutors what was their opinion in terms of the most important words in those categories. And we did that. We handed the methodology over to Welsh to try to create our own core vocabulary for A1 and A2 for adults. That's just a summary of what we did. But in the end, After we went through the methodology and the research in details, we had a list of around 650 words for A1 and around 550 words for A2 in Welsh for adults. And the impact and the huge benefits of this, of course, not just as Helen said, the curriculum. We could create a curriculum knowing exactly what the necessary words were for those levels, but also assessment, of course. When we were setting exam papers, I knew, well, okay, well, this word is an A1 word, so I wouldn't want, I would expect everybody to understand that word. And for something like the graded readers, which Helen talked about earlier. And this is how the form looked for the tutors when they were noting vocabulary. So we had that, and the next challenge was B1. So we wanted to go a step further, and with B1, we decided to use the word association methodology. I'm sure you've heard of that. Word association with football, for those who remember Monty Python. And using the core A1 and A2 vocabulary and asking around 85 participants who were Welsh speakers from all various backgrounds to provide the 3 words associated with that word. So, for example, a word like black, what comes first? White. Anything else?
Yeah. Nos.
Nice.
Bwrdd, falle.
Bwrdd.
Yeah. Pethau, falle, ti'n bod, gwen.
So, things like black, white.
Gwswyneb, i ti. Ond geiriau fan hyn debygol o gael ei defnyddio o gwmpas.
Likely to be used around that word. And if you think about it, that is true.
So, os ydw i'n rhoi gael o
So if I give you a word like tynnu, pulling.
Tynnu yn gweithwch.
Shout.
Tynnu llun. Mae tynnu llun,
which means towing. So, in English, you don't pull a picture. You know, I have heard people in Llanelli saying that they pull a picture.
Pulling the photo, yes. Yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Never mind. So, from using that methodology, we eventually had core vocabulary for B1. But then, in 2020, something very, very important came, which was finally the national corpus. Dawn over here has led on this work in Cardiff, and I was very lucky to be a part of that work. We published the national corpus, so we could check what we had in A1 and A2 with a proper corpus for language. We had about 13 million, 11 million, 3 million Welsh words in that. And we then went through that process, didn't we, relatively recently, and updated our lists based on the corpus. And it was amazing, really, how close the methodology was between the Français Fondamental to what's in the corpus. So that was really very encouraging. Something else that we've had to do through the project in Swansea recently is to create a list of norms in Welsh. I don't have time to describe now what that means, but I can tell you over a coffee later on if you're interested. Which brings me on to the final slide, which is a project that we're working on now, which is to move towards a corpus of children's language Children's language, as you all know, I'm sure, it's not going to be exactly the same as a corpus of adult language. At the moment, I'm saying this, looking at this table in front of me again, Dawn and Fernando, there is no corpus of children's language. Who knows whether we'll have one in the future? So what we've decided to do is to use the same Français Fondamental methodology again to create a vocabulary or to create core A1 and A2 vocabulary for children who will be learning Welsh through the CEFR in the future.
Addasu fe tymor,
Adapt it a little.
Defnyddio athrawon cynradd profiadol.
Put in the long run to use experienced primary teachers in second language and first language, immersion,
Wneud yr un math o beth gyda
do the same
categorïau.
kind of thing with the categories, and on that basis,
Fi
we're
nawr cael
about
rhestr
to succeed in having an A1 and A2 list for children of core vocabulary for children. It includes words like dinosaur, for example, which might not be in the A1 or A2 list for adults, but you know why it's there in the children's vocabulary list because of toys and things like that. The impact of this work, well, the curriculum, of course, the impact of the curriculum resources. It means that book publishers know, well, if we publish a book for children who have achieved A1, this is the vocabulary we would expect them to know. And I've mentioned the language continuum there, but it's a journey that I mean, the language journey there. That helps speakers to know where they are in terms of vocabulary on that journey. And one additional element, which I didn't have years ago when we were doing A1, A2 for adults, was artificial intelligence, which has been very, very helpful, hasn't it, Matthew, in creating the final lists. So, sorry, we've all gone over time, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, Donna, but it is interesting, and I think it's important to see that research is at the heart of our decisions. So thank you very much.